like somebody's not used to a little freedom.
That's what I thought too.
Grow up, gents.
Red coats are coming.
I already know this is going to be a super controversial video, but here's the full audio.
Ground Virgin 232 Golf, request taxi for 36 right.
Virgin 232 Golf Heavy, Austin Ground 36 right, taxi via Golf 1 Hotel Bravo.
Golf 1 Hotel Bravo. Thanks, Virgin 232 Golf.
Virgin 232 Golf Heavy, you don't have to wait for that southwest, you can just sidestep him.
Okay, sir, I'm saying Golf 1 is ahead of us, so he just pushed back in front of us and not enough room for the turn.
Roger.
Incredibly poor, incredibly poor. We anticipate first time of being in here, sir, and we were approaching Golf 1 and the southwest continued to push. He was right in front, to be quite honest, sir, and the ground handler saw us when they were still at gate before the push, and I've never seen anything quite like it, sir.
Virgin 232 Golf Heavy, Roger. Unfortunately, sir, the ramp's on control. I have no control over who pushes.
This is taking place in Austin, Texas, and it seems like there's a combo with Austin, Texas and Southwest that seems to be a theme lately. This is the airport, and this right here is the area where all this is happening. The Virgin plane is here on Charlie 1, and their instructions were 36 right via Golf 1, Hotel, and Bravo. And some of you may be wondering, why didn't the controller start off with the instructions saying Charlie 1, but this ramp is uncontrolled. Listen here what the controller says.
Virgin 222 Golf Heavy, Roger. Unfortunately, sir, the ramp's on control. I have no control over who pushes.
Typically, you'll find in an international airport, ramps are controlled. And a controlled ramp means that you have to request permission to push your plane back, start your engines, and then a controller who's in charge of that area will tell you exactly how they want you to get out of that area. That's what a controlled ramp is. Uncontrolled means just like what it sounds like. There's no controller in there, so you don't have to request permission to start your engines or push back. And it's kind of like taking 6 toys, throwing it into a sandbox with 10 little boys and hoping that they're all going to play nice. Yeah, it's possible that it all works out, but you kind of already see how things are going to play out. The Virgin aircraft is here, and they need to get out of the ramp on Golf 1, but Southwest is pushing off of gate 12. And if you're wondering, Kelsey, how do you know that they're off of gate 12? Well, I've heard the whole audio before, so you didn't miss anything. You're going to hear later on how I know they're on 12, but that's where they're pushing out of. So just trust me that Southwest is here at gate 12 pushing back. And that's when I think the controller sees the Virgin aircraft has stopped, and then the controller says this.
Virgin 232 Golf Heavy, you don't have to wait for that southwest, you can just sidestep him.
Now, sidestep in aviation means to just go one to the left or one to the right. You might hear it sometimes when a plane is landing. They'll ask if you can sidestep to the runway to the left or runway to the right, or a taxiway to the left or a taxiway to the right. That's what sidestep means. Essentially, what he's asking the Virgin pilots is this. He's saying you don't need to stop here. You can actually just slide down to Charlie 2 and go around them onto Golf 1 and be on your way. Here's the problem. One of the things that pilots get taught very early in flight school is stay on the yellow line. That yellow line is what we follow as we're taxiing around. So by getting off of that yellow line and sliding over across the ramp there, where there is not a yellow line, there is some anxiety. And a lot of pilots don't want to do it because they know that if they're not on that yellow line and they hit something or something goes wrong, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I had a pilot when I was flying corporate jets. He was a retired airline pilot, and he said to me, here's the one thing to remember when you're taxiing. Hit whatever you want, but make sure that your nose is on the center line and following that yellow line. So he's basically saying, like, if you end up hitting another plane or something happens that goes wrong, if your nose is on the center line and following that yellow line, you're going to have a lot better point or justification when you're talking with your chief pilot. That obviously does not apply when you taxi into a pole, but you get my point. So as you see here, if they were to cut across, they'd be following no lines, and then there'd be a risk if they hit something. The problem here is when the controller is saying that, I don't know if they're realizing what the wingspan of a 787 is. It's roughly about 200 feet. So this is a taxi chart here. So if I add wing restrictions on the chart of a 777, which is the closest that I have in wingspan to a 787, you can see here they couldn't have gone down there, because if they had hit something, it would have been 100% those pilots' fault. I don't think the controller was trying to get these pilots in any trouble, and I don't know if these pilots even have the same chart that I'm using here, but either way, they're not going to want to get off of their taxi line, slide across the ramp, and if they do have this chart, then they 100% know that they can't get over there on that line. Now, they could have gone at an angle here and cut across and got onto Golf 1 while letting Southwest to do their pushback. Now, these pilots are being conservative by staying on their line and refusing to slide over. That's their choice. They don't have to do that. And I understand their situation. They got a 9 or 9.5 hour day ahead of them. They want to get it done with, and they want to get in the air, because once you get in the air, you can get everything set up and start your break and just get your flight over with. When you have a long flight, you don't really want to spend an extra 10 or 20 minutes on the ground. And I understand Southwest's perspective as well. They have a lot of flights to do. They want to keep it moving, and that's, again, kind of their style. They're fast moving and they want to get it going. So the pilots that were in the Virgin plane or the Southwest pilots could have done something and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pull my plane forward, or I'm going to push it back so it's back far enough so that way you can get out. All of that could have happened if the Virgin aircraft had said, hey, Southwest, we see you're pushing back, but can you have them push you deeper, or can you have them tug you forward so we can get out of Gulf 1? Then the pilots that were in the Southwest aircraft could have relayed that to the tug driver, so that way the tug driver could move them or push them or get them out of the way so Virgin could get out. But nobody communicated that to the tug driver, so the tug driver is just going to do whatever he's going to do. And that's when all the drama starts. Here's what happens.
Ground Southwest 1016, beam 12 push, or taxi.
Southwest 1016, Austin ground, runway 36 left, taxi via Golf 1, Hotel Charlie.
Golf 1, Hotel Charlie, to 36 left, Southwest 10.
Southwest 1016, just out of interest, did you actually see us, though, as you're pushing back?
Not till they were already pushing us.
Hey, you weren't, though, but we'll file, thanks.
Seems like somebody's not used to a little freedom. That's what I thought too. Patience is a virtue.
Grow up, gents.
Red coats are coming.
As they say, there's two sides to every story. So on one side, from the perspective of the international pilots in the Virgin aircraft, I understand their perspective. They want to get on with their day. And they were already in the ramp area, so they wanted to keep moving and get on with their flight. On the other side, the ramp is uncontrolled, so Southwest does have a right to technically push their plane back. The tug driver should have advised these pilots, hey, there's a Virgin aircraft in the alleyway, or a Virgin aircraft that's looking like they're going to move out. And had they known that, I'm guessing the Southwest pilots would have said, yeah, okay, let them move out, possibly. Or they would have said, hey, can you tug us forward or tug us out of the way, or communicated something to the control tower or to the Virgin pilots to say, hey, what way are you getting out? A lot of things could have happened there to avoid this situation. Now, it doesn't really make sense why the Virgin pilots would ask this of Southwest.
Southwest 1016, just out of interest, did you actually see us, though, as you're pushing back?
It doesn't make any sense to ask that because it's after the fact. Southwest has already got their engine started up and they're ready to move. So, okay, that doesn't make any sense right now to even ask that, except to make yourself get more irritated. If they had suggested to Southwest or to the tower while that tug was pushing them back, hey, can you have them push them back or tug them forward or get them out of the way so we can get out of Gulf 1? And then those Southwest guys said no, or we don't want to do that, or something like that. Okay, well, that would be a totally different case, but the Virgin pilots didn't do that. They just sat there and kind of stewed and were upset about what was going on in this uncontrolled ramp. And unfortunately, the Southwest pilots from that aspect were not wrong. But saying something like this,
seems like somebody's not used to a little freedom,
is really just rude and childish, because if he did see them, like he's saying that he did, as soon as they started to push back, they could have suggested to the tug driver, hey, is that guy taxiing out? Can you pull us forward or tug us back or push us back or get us out of the way so he can get out? They could have done that. He's saying they pushed back and they didn't see them until they were pushed back. The Virgin pilot's saying, like, that's not true, which I'm not there, so I can't see what the Southwest pilots could or couldn't see. If they had another plane and the gate right next to them, they wouldn't really been able to see that. The tug driver should have seen, hey, there's a plane that's already back there. You sure you guys want to go? And maybe they said, yeah, let's go anyways. It might take them forever to do their checks. So that could be true. But he's saying, the Southwest pilot, that they didn't see Virgin until they'd already started their push. Well, at that point, they could have asked the tug driver to move them out of the way. So that way that Virgin plane could move, because they heard the Virgin pilots talking with air traffic control about trying to get out of the way, or trying to get them out of the way so they could get out of Gulf 1. So really, they're both wrong here. The Virgin pilots are kind of crying instead of like being more assertive as saying like, hey, can you move or tug or get out of the way so we can get out of Gulf 1, is what they should have said. The Southwest pilots are saying they saw them, but then were just discourteous and didn't try to be polite to even give them any room in this uncontrolled area for them to get out. And then the guys start getting rude, which is where I have the most issue, was this part right here.
Seems like somebody's not used to a little freedom. That's what I thought too. Patience is a virtue.
Grow up, gents.
Ride codes are coming.
So to me, that part is super unprofessional and really not necessary, and it's really very rude to be doing stuff like that. And I have a problem when people have keyboard courage and they start saying all these things on the computer with these icons or profile pictures, which are not anybody, that's them. And it's kind of the same thing you'll hear sometimes on the radio. Guys get real courageous on the radio saying stuff, but they wouldn't say that to someone's face. So that's where I really have a problem with that. I don't really care when people say mean stuff about me on the internet. I think it's kind of funny. But when I hear people doing like this, professional pilots that are flying international or domestically or whatever, but you're a professional airline pilot and you're kind of bashing on them, the redcoats are coming, you're not used to freedom. It's just like, dude, really? Like, you probably wouldn't say that to their face. I'm guessing maybe you would, but it's a super jerk thing to say, and if you did see them, you should have asked to be moved out of the way so they could get out. That's what I would do, and if I was the Virgin pilots, I would have said something like, hey, can you guys pull forward or get out of the way so we can get out of Gulf 1? I probably would have said that. Now, I'm maybe more assertive, these British pilots, or maybe just trying to be a little bit more polite, but that is just the way it kind of shook out. Both guys were wrong in some aspects, the Virgin pilot being like, we're going to file our report, and then you have the American pilots all being jerks. So really all their pilots had a responsibility in how this played out. They all could have done something differently, except the pilots that were just being jerks on the radio, the redcoats are coming. That's just super unnecessary. So, but at the end of the day, what do I know? I'm just a fake 747 pilot dressed up in a hotel room that apparently has a green screen behind me. So what do I really know? Just a really big green screen back there. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one over here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.